All right, everyone. Now we have a hilarious story. I am very, very proud to report Doge looked into HHS, some of the funding that they had allocated. And they found that apparently part of that funding was going to go to an Anthony Fauci museum exhibit. Now, I would think it'd be a bunch of bones and dire things. But I have a feeling that's not what it was for. Wasn't going to talk about his lackadaisical response to the AIDS epidemic or the fact that he had to admit to multiple false statements after the more recent pandemic, which we are not allowed to discuss fully on YouTube. Let's just say that he did come out, this is canonical, and he apologized for some of the guidance that was given. Don't worry, YouTube, I'm not talking about the WHO. I'm talking about Mr. Fauci, just one individual. He was guilty of medical disinformation, effectively. I'm wondering, is he banned off of YouTube? He probably should be. If anyone deserves it, it would be him. They were going to allocate tens of thousands of dollars to this exhibit, too, which makes no sense. Why do you need a museum exhibit for this dude? He's not particularly relevant except in the context of providing false guidance during two major pandemics. This has been admitted to. He also came out, I believe, after the AIDS pandemic. Originally, it was thought that only homosexual sex would get you AIDS, or anal sex, rather. I mean, some men plow women in the ass, but it wasn't at the time appropriate for the legacy media to generally acknowledge that happened. In those cases, it was always, well, the woman must have been sharing needles, with a homosexual, of course. If a kid got it, it was a transfusion. There was never any molestation involved. Just don't look up Mpox, by the way. Monkeypox outbreak, yeah. That one was a little bit interesting. That got swept under the rug really quickly, by the way. Now, Fauci is a failure. He's not a success. He doesn't deserve a goddamn museum exhibit. If you're gonna have medical museum exhibits, then allocate the resources to people that were actually relevant and did a good job, like Marie Curie or something like that. Curie, that would be fine. Yeah, she sacrificed herself for her research, by the way. Or somebody like that. Why would you allocate funds towards a Fauci museum exhibit? And by the way, who's going to bother looking at it? It's not going to be interesting. Well, here's a list of Fauci's accomplishments. It's just a blank sheet of paper. You could make it into an art exhibit, though. That I would support funding. You should put that in the museum instead. You have a great big picture of Anthony Fauci. It says, these are Fauci's great accomplishments. And then it's just several blank pieces of paper. And then you cut it out of the wall and sell it for $10 million and use it for tax purposes, for money laundering or something like that. That would make sense. That would be acceptable. You could use that to fund the effort to remove the penny from U.S. currency. We'll be, by the way, talking about that soon. Fauci doesn't deserve a museum exhibit. This is another example of how Doge operates. They go in, they're looking at, what's being spent on what. In this case, HHS was involved. They're currently banned from looking at U.S. Treasury materials. I wonder why that one specific bureau, by the way, was singled out for that particular decision-making purpose. And then they say to the public, basically, or to the Trump admin itself, it's sort of like, an advisory council. They can go to the Trump administration itself and say, look, they're trying to spend $500,000 to grow a plant or something like that. And then he can say yay or nay effectively to that and make a deal about it. With regards to public sentiment, that's actually more important. If the public is largely on board with axing a program or part of a program or something that a bureau is trying to buy, for instance, $1,000 water coolers or something like that for the office, or $500 to buy Boston ferns for the lavatories or something. then when public sentiment gets aboard, it makes it a lot easier to axe that money. You can put pressure on Congress with regards to budgetary concerns. You can certainly, you're putting pressure on Trump as well to bring up the issue. Then it becomes even more public, and then it's sort of a feedback cycle, so to speak. This is how Doge is operating. In only a couple short weeks, you have seen, well, I think 3 now actually, in only a few short weeks, you've had much, much more transformative action than you've seen from any other administration in a very long time. This is pissing off the Uniparty. It's scaring the legacy media. All of the right people that are against it, basically. The people that you know to be corrupt generally aren't on board with these things. They hate Doge. I mean, other than Warren, she semi-embraced him, but only for the Defense Department, which was inexplicable. The right people are against it. The corporate crooks that you know are crooked. The banksters, the ones you know are crooked. The political figures that you know are crooked. The Defense Department figures and so forth that you know are crooked. These people are corrupt. When virtually every corrupt individual that you know is corrupt in D.C., on Wall Street, etc., in Hollywood, are all against something, it's probably a good idea to incept it. Because effectively, what you've got is an army of villains that are opposing it. Well, why should I side with them? The average person in the population, at least, is incapable of being at that level of corruption because they don't have the means to do so. I tend to believe that there's a lot of corruption in the general population as well. But the ability to do harm is requisite on your amount of power and money and things like that, your charisma. And so the people that have risen to the top, you know, the upper crust, so to speak, there's a lot more corruption there. When they're all against Doge, or at least 90% of them seem to be, then I support Doge. Perfect? No. Simply advisory? Yeah. Is it getting things done? Yeah, I mean, you just nixed the Fauci museum exhibit, which people in the public, by and large, nobody would want. It's a waste of money. It's never going to make a return. It's completely pointless, and it's celebrating someone that doesn't deserve to be celebrated. That's just the truth. That's about all. Peace out.